I think that's probably an understatement. Yeah. It's one of those things that'd be very hard not to get emotional when you look at how the kids get affected. Yeah, I can only imagine. So.
Yeah, so no, that's the sore point for me, is ensuring that the kids still have a childhood.
Yeah.
And we said from day dot that the accident wasn't to impede what they ever want to do.
Yep.
Or what they can do.
Welcome everyone to the Seraph Machinery podcast. Today we are here in Uranquiddy in southern New South Wales, and we've got a couple of really special guests here. We've got Derek and Skye Lewington. Thanks very much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. They've got a pretty interesting story. Some people may know it, some people may not. But at the end of the day, we just want to have a bit of a chat, find out a bit more about your farm, what day-to-day life sort of looks for you guys. Naturally, we'll talk about your accident, but that's not what it's all about. It's all about you guys, where you come from, what you do in this beautiful part of the world, and what's the future for you guys as well. Very keen on hearing your thoughts about the future of farming. We've already had a bit of a chat this morning about the future of X or Twitter and things like that. So, we'll just have a bit of a chat. So, guys, would you like to start? Fourth generation farmer, Derek?
Yeah, about that, I think.
About?
No, I think for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yep. So where did the whole situation start? The great-great-grandfather?
Yeah, about great-great-grandfather, I think, or great-great, two of them.
Yep.
Yeah, he started off down Bundaberg, I think.
Yep.
And then, obviously, my great-grandfather came to the area and picked out a bit of dirt he liked up on the railway line, and my cousin's there still.
Nice.
And then I did have another uncle who was next door, but I bought him out.
Yep.
This house was my great-grandfather's.
Yep.
But it went out of the family as well. We had a bit of an interlude where the Air Force came and took half our farm out of office in World War II.
Really?
Yeah, that's where Mum and Dad live. And that was out of the family for probably about 30 years, I think.
Yep.
And at the end, they resumed at office, and at the end of it, they didn't sell it back to us. They put it up for auction and someone else bought it.
That's handy.
Yeah, and so that person stripped everything they could off it and sold it.
Yep.
And then they realised they hadn't paid him any money for it. So he went bankrupt and disappeared, and they put it back up to auction. We had to go to auction and buy it.
Yeah, right.
So my grandfather was not very happy with the government.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So, and then this part got sold off as well in the meantime.
Yep.
And it wasn't until Skye and I got married and we bought this part back, and we finally got all the land back together.
Yep.
But it took a long time.
So how many hectares in this property now?
We run 1,000 hectares.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's a beautiful country too.
We do at least a bit more up the road off the army base.
Yep.
That's just run cattle on it. So the main part is mostly cropping.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what we do.
Very good. Got the kids. They're pretty active on the farm too.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, young fella's been driving since about 4.
Next generation coming through. I love it.
He does awesome donuts.
Yeah. I think I've seen some video footage of some donuts in a little buggy thing.
Yeah.
The girls are just as talented.
Yeah.
He's just a typical farm kid, though.
Yeah, good.
One of our friends came around with his kids one day, and they found the go-kart, and they tore up all the gravel in front of our shed, to the point where we had to get the bobcat out afterwards and try to smooth it all out.
I love it. That's good.
So they all went home thinking, oh, I love that place. You get to drive the go-kart. And we're just like, now we're going to spend half a day trying to make the yard usable again.
Very good, very good. So how long have you guys been together?
Oh, that one comes to me, apparently.
I knew that was a trick question, mate.
Yeah. We've been together for 21 years, but we've been married for 17 of them.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Very good.
So.
And where did you meet?
Romano's
in Wagga.
Yeah, I found a
Nice
guy
work.
staring at me, and at midnight I'd had enough courage to go and ask him what his problem was. And
Love it.
we've been together.
Skye came off a farm at Lockhart as well.
Oh, it's Lockhart girl. Yeah, beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. No, very
So
good.
whereas we had a 30-foot air seat, or not even,
Yep.
we went out and saw Skye's dad, and I jumped on the tractor with him, a 52-foot John Deere air seater,
Yeah.
which was just enormous for us. We'd never seen anything
looked
like it around
huge.
here. He was out contracting with that, wasn't he?
Yep. Yep.
So that's how I met Skye's dad. Yeah. Oh, and then he walked into the house.
Don't. Don't you dare. Sorry.
We're not going to edit that out either. So you're from a farming background.
Yeah, so my parents were halfway between Lockhart, Borey Creek and Urana, just before the floodplains.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I grew up out there, pretty much 15 minutes to any of the sort of closest shops and things. But yeah, I was one of 4 children, and yeah, we just grew up doing our things. So I was always the chaser bin driver for Dad at night if we needed to do something during harvest and things like that. And it's sort of a bit of a role reversal now. Dad comes over and helps us all. So both our parents are involved during harvest time for us and being the extra hands that we need. And he now catches for me. So it's sort of a
good
whole role reversal thing, which is quite mind-blowing, but it works well.
Your dad gives a bit of a hand too?
Yeah. Mum and Dad live next door on the farm, so
You have to pull him back on the tractor so it doesn't go too quick. Role reverse we were talking about before.
yeah, they'll get themselves into trouble if you don't keep an eye on them.
Yeah, that's right. So in speaking about that as the brains of the operation, you were saying?
Keep the brains on the board.
Sure about that.
How do you go about keeping an eye on these situations? I bet you it is.
We do a few things. So I've set it up that the operations centre is the app on Derek's phone, so he can actually track the tractors and the headers and things because we use the John Deere tractors. So he can actually see where we are in those different places. A lot of the time I'll do a video call to Derek on our iPhones, so he can answer those and do that with his voice. He's got a bit more movement now that he can use his thumb, so he can get a bit more in there, and he can unfortunately hang up on me now. So there's a few things that are like that. But yeah, essentially if I'm out there, any questions or anything that pops up, it's always a phone call to Derek and have that discussion with him. So he's included in all aspects of the things. So any decisions I make, I quite often think, what would Derek want, or what would Derek think, or what would he do? And if I'm...
And then do the opposite.
And no, I tend to follow what he says. Quite often he says, you're the one that's there, make the decision, and okay. But a lot of the time the decision's made as a joint collaboration between us. A lot of the time we quite often, if we're out in the paddocks working, we'll go, oh, the boss is here, because we see the red van coming down the road. So very handy having a bright coloured van for him to get around in. We see him coming. So
gives a heads up, look out.
That's it. So, and we've also adapted a few different things for him to be able to interact with us. So he's got access via equipment on his wheelchair that have been adapted to be able to speak on the UHF radio to us within his car and within the house. So he can actually access those points by pushing one of the buttons, like what's on his headrest here or on his armrest, to be able to speak to us down the paddock via the UHF, like it would.
Because we know that mobile phones don't always work.
No, that's right. So it's
you're not too far from you're in Quiddy though, so phone service is okay.
We actually have better service up here than what they do down in Quinny. So we're a little bit lucky. It's a bit of a black spot down there, so we're a bit fortunate that on the rise up here we've got a little bit more reception. Sometimes it's not that much, but when you're out driving the machinery and you need the ability to not be holding onto the phone or different things, and you want to be listening for everything. So the UHF's the go-to for us. Yeah,
for sure. So little things like that. I think you also said you've got a drone set up that he can operate as well, but the controllers.
Yeah, so when the carers or whoever's here with him, they can set up the control. So it's a bit like the thing with your, what are the clips called, Derek? You know the ones I'm talking about, the clamp on. Anyway, I can't think of the name of them, but we've got it set up that one holds the actual drone machine and then the phone mount is there like as part all up here in his face, and then we've adapted the drone controllers to have like a soft ball, ping pong size ball on top. And so he can fly the drone with his using his chin, and he uses voice commands that I have set up, special commands within the iPhone, to be able to use his voice to get the drone to take off. And
That's amazing. I can't fly a drone for my life. I've got lucky enough. I've got Vince that is our expert drone flyer.
Yeah.
I'd have to have a look at that one day when you get a chance to. Flying with his chin, that's pretty.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. Our son has taken over doing that now because he's now 15, 16 years old. So it's his new favourite toy. So we don't get to see it very often. Yep. He's too busy flying with that.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's where a lot of the footage comes from.
Yeah. What were you actually able to use the drone for? What sort of applications do you use it?
Keep an eye on the workers, make sure they're doing everything right down the paddock.
Yeah, making sure they're not pulled up and having a snooze.
Make cool videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, if we've got cows nearby, we can check the cows' water and stuff too, and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. Because it's funny. A lot of people are starting to use drones more and more, but in your application, I think it just makes it.
I've always had one, haven't I?
Okay.
Probably a bad omen, but it was only like the day before my accident. I was flying my drone out over the paddock, and it just disconnected and fell out of the sky, and I lost it.
Oh no!
Never knew why.
Yeah.
And we never found it, did we? I went to hospital. Yeah, but later on, when I was in hospital, they found it for me, and it had fallen out of the sky and broken itself. But we got it fixed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we never knew what happened, did we? Never knew why.
We did get an updated drone to be able to do the stuff that we're doing with it now for the updates. A bit like the GoPros, we updated to a GoPro Black, which actually does voice commands as well, so he can utilise a bit of GoPro action and things like that. But most of the things now
you can get the actual evidence to go back to you and go, hey, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah, so, or, in this particular wheelchair, it's hard for him to get across paddocks and things.
Yep.
So he's able to, perhaps pop into the corner of the paddock and he can actually fly over the crop and go, hey, what happened there? Or what's this doing? Or I noticed this.
Yeah, the seed placement doesn't look good, Dad.
So it's one of those ones that he can still have that interaction with it. We did purchase a side-by-side this year, and I have been able to get Derek into that. He can only be in it for a short time due to the risk of pressure injuries and things like that. Okay. So, but I can get him in there and we can go across and see a bit more, but it's not.
How was that getting back into the side-by-side and not driving it?
Pretty horrible.
Yeah.
No, just getting pushed around into cars and things, it's not really nice.
No, I can imagine.
And I can't, because I can't control my body, I feel like I'm going to headbutt the dashboard all the time.
Yep.
So it's a bit weird.
Yeah, that's the advantage of the side-by-side with the seatbelt. We've got him strapped there and two of us sit either side, so that's three of us in the front.
Yeah.
I need someone on each side of me or I want to fall over.
So getting him out was more of a challenge than getting him in. He ended up falling over and laying across all the seats. So
I'm pretty sure I've seen a photo of that.
So part of it all is you've got to look at the humorous side of things, and you've just got to laugh at it and take the funny side of it.
So you've been dealt a pretty rough hand. You've had a motorbike accident, something you love doing.
Obviously, never broke a bone.
Never broke a bone. So if you're going to do it, you're going to do it properly.
Exactly.
No, well, he didn't break his bone for this one. He dislocated it.
Dislocated it. Yeah,
had him in neck. And before that, never broken a bone.
So drank plenty of milk as a kid, good strong bones. And
I suppose so, yeah. Had plenty of crashes. Because
I was about to say, anybody that rides motorbikes, you come off. If you're not, you're not having a go. So.
Exactly, not doing it properly. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So this was a race. This wasn't just a tour. Yep.
Yeah, it was I'd retired from racing.
Oh,
and then
right.
My son was at the age where he started riding his little bike again.
Yeah.
And Skye went to get him a licence, and she sort of trying to work out how to do it online because it's all online now.
Yep.
So she renewed my licence as well because it was easier.
Under his request.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we both had a licence. I thought, I might as well use it. And I did a few races. Went over a year or so.
Yep.
And I don't like losing.
We had a deal. He wasn't allowed to overtake anyone, so he took that on as a challenge. He had to get at the front and stuff.
Get at the front from
Get the whole shot.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, it turns out that the over 35 class is worst class of
Pretty
all.
competitive.
Because if you're old and you can't ride, you don't. But if you're a good rider, you still ride when you're over 35.
Yeah.
So it was very competitive, I worked out.
Yeah. My brother does the same, yeah. Yeah. He hit 40 and he goes, you know what, I'm going to get back into motorbikes again. No,
Don't bother. I'm proof you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Before that, you used to ride a fair bit. You were talking about doing some crop tours and that with other farmers, because I know a lot of farmers, they do have motorbikes.
Well, yeah, I sort of spent my whole life racing, really.
Okay. Yep.
So I've been overseas and raced and everything.
Yeah, right.
And so when this sort of thing came on, we worked out that farmers have motorbikes.
Yeah.
We could go on a ride together.
Perfect.
Yeah, so there was everyone from old hacks that ride around the crops, and that's why they got an old XR.
Yep.
And there was a few decent people who could ride, well, but few people could ride well.
Yep.
Yeah, so it didn't sort of matter on a ride like that. We just went up the laneways and went to another farm, and the fast bloke went at the front had a play, and the slow blokes pulled along the back, and it didn't take long to catch up. So.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Good social outing. And we've just done a podcast there with John Harper from Mate Helping Mate. I don't know whether you've come across that podcast before.
Name rings a bell. Yeah.
And John was talking about how important that is for everybody's mental health, to be able to get off the farm, get out there with like-minded people and do it and that sort of thing. So it's great to hear that, people are out there doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was just a real casual get-together, have a bit of fun. Did you do many rides up? I think I read that you used to do a fair few through Victorian high country.
Yeah. Been all through that.
That'd be pretty good. So I've just moved back from Dartmouth. Lived up at Dartmouth for a few years.
Ridden there too, yeah.
And the amount of bike groups that come through there is phenomenal.
Yeah. It's the best country for it.
It is awesome. But the amount of people that you get to meet up there, and they are from every walk of life.
Well, that's everywhere in Australia.
Yeah.
We've done desert trips across the Connie Sue Highway and stuff.
Yep.
And all we do is run into farmers all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone else stays in the city, but the farmers go out and visit the countryside, don't they?
Why not?
Yeah.
I know where I'd rather be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've done a lot of desert trips and travelling, and there are mountains. Not everywhere in Australia. There's still places I didn't go riding and I wanted to.
Yep.
But I've also ridden a lot.
Yep.
And we used to go out as a family, even in the four-wheel drive, and do four-wheel drive trips down the mountains.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'd find where the good tracks were and go back with my mates on the motorbike.
That's right. I want to go there in the four-wheel drive, but I can't. I'll go there on the bike.
Well, no, it was funny. All the boys had come back after their boy trips and they go, Skye, you should have seen this. I'm like, I did. I've been there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've had the accident. Can you sort of just tell us a little bit about what that was like at the time? You 5.5 months down in Sydney?
I hate Sydney.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah, so his accident was 30th of June 2019.
Yep.
And we were flown back to Wagga on the 10th of December 2019.
Right. Yep.
And then he stayed in the base for a few months, and we got moved over to Calvary Hospital in Wagga in the end of the January, beginning of the February.
Yep.
And then COVID came along.
Yeah, that
And
posed the question I was going to ask.
Posed the big problem at that point. While we were in Sydney, we went through and did all the processes of trying to hop onto the NDIS scheme.
Yep.
And it wasn't until we returned to Wagga that they actually realised that iCare lifetime cover was this. Derek was riding a registered bike at the time. And so we ended up being approved to go onto the lifetime iCare cover, which is your CTP insurance. And he has lifetime cover under that insurance program now.
Good.
They came on board and we had gone through and designed this extension as part of it. My mother was a draftswoman engineer, so she did the plans up for me.
Nice work.
And we had all that. There was quite a few arguments. She told me I was the most difficult client she's ever had.
So demanding.
But I had a lot of input from occupational therapists and physiotherapists from Sydney. I spent the full 5.5 months at Derek's side in Sydney learning all the ropes, because we were in a bit of a different situation than most people are in a major city or a larger city.
Yeah.
When they've had their accident, they return and they've got access to all the stuff on hand. For us, were close to Wagga, but it was just far enough away that we needed to have someone on hand to be able to do those things. So I took the training upon myself to do all of those things. So there's a lot of things that I had to get accredited for to do for Derek's care. So we did all that while we were in Sydney. But the hospital in Wagga, when COVID came down, we said it was fine while the kids were still able to visit. They locked it down and said that I was allowed to visit, but the children weren't going to be allowed to visit.
One visit.
So at that point we said no for our mental health and for the kids' mental health. They've already done 5.5 months without us. They need to be able to access us and we need them. So we took it upon ourselves then to actually move home. So at that point we were in a building site. So we didn't have a kitchen. We moved into the lounge room where the fridge and we had a sandwich press. That was the kitchen. The kids had the bedrooms and our old bedroom became the lounge area for us to be able to actually access around. So we were on a building site for 4.5, 5 months. So we came home in the March, April, and the extension didn't, we weren't approved to move out here and have it completed until the September.
Yeah, right.
So we didn't access the kitchen until for that duration of that time sort of thing. So the builders were amazing. They were really good.
Right with
another one.
So a lot of
he's a real good fella.
Yeah.
He went out of his way.
Excellent.
And between motorbike community's been awesome like that.
It's so has fun.
Yeah. But even one of the my motorbike club from Holbrook does a wood drive for us every year.
Yeah.
They just turn up with 10 trail loads of wood and drop it off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Derek's too scared to let me have the chainsaw. So we went through and did all those things. So at that time, we basically when we came through, Derek before the accident had started pulling the gearbox out of our Unimog, and it needed to be put back together at that point. So Derek was quite frustrated in the early days. We set the challenge for ourselves in Sydney that I would do the work and he would tell me how to do it. So
I've tried explaining to my wife how to back a trailer. I think that's just taken to the next level.
Lucky she's a farm girl.
Very much.
So we rebuilt the gearbox. That was a goal we set in Sydney that we, on return, that's how we would work it out. And that was our staging point. It was the challenge we'd sort of set, and it was the goal that if we could achieve that, we could achieve anything. So we did it, got it put back in to the Unimog, and I actually drove. I was really scared.
That was the next question. This would actually work.
Yes, it did. So that was a huge relief. We got it back together, and from that point, he then taught me some welding and a few different things. But prior to the accident, we had a discussion, and we had some workers at the time that they weren't the greatest, and we, in the earlier days of the marriage, I sort of looked at him and said, why are we going to be putting our money upskilling these other people? Why not upskill me? And so I went and got the truck license. I went and got the kinesical certificates, the gun licenses, the whole lot. So whatever he had, I got. And whatever I had, he had to have as well. So we sort of, the idea was to future-proof ourselves, that if one of us was taken out, the other one was already able to do the role. So I took him to Phoenix courses as much as he hated it. He had to learn the accounting side of it, and I had to upskill myself to get the other side of it too.
So even before the accident, you'd already sort of not planned for something like this, but made sure that you were as self-sufficient as you could be.
Yeah. I married her because she's handy.
Yeah. So what do you do in your spare time?
Sleep.
So yes, spare time doesn't exist.
No, so he keeps telling me I can sleep when I'm in bed. So
yeah, well, you do get plenty of that.
Yeah. So, it was more about ensuring that why put all the skills into someone that may leave? Why not have the skills on farm and ready to go? So that's why we chose to do what we did. Don't get me wrong, the workers that we do have, we also upskill them and send them to courses and do different things to ensure everyone's on the same page. But we needed to know that we could do what we needed to do by having ourselves. And it's a bit like driving the tractors and things now. No one person is solely that's their job.
Yeah.
Everyone should be able to do that job, and some are more adept at doing those jobs, and it's more of a skill set area that they're in.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that someone else shouldn't be able to step in and fill that role.
Yep. Yep. That's an amazing way of looking at it, and being able to handle that situation.
Yeah.
For me, one of the biggest kick in the guts was all my licences.
Yep.
So you have truck licence, motorbike licence, car licence, all the stupid licences, and a gun licence.
Yep.
As soon as I had my accident, the cops wanted to come out and confiscate all my guns. So that's when they had to get Skye a licence as quick as we could so that
Yep.
she could register everything in her name.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have confiscated it.
Yeah.
And then when Derek's licence did run out and they were already registered in my name, they still turned up and said they were unregistered.
Oh, really?
So we had to go through and do a few different things. So it did prove to be handy to have ourselves set up that in the event of the accident, which we didn't foresee.
Yeah.
But, it is a risk when you do those sports and you do those different things. So I do tend to do a lot more calculated risks now.
Yep.
But at the same time, you can't stop living and can't stop doing what you love. So we do take those calculated risks and try and achieve what we need to achieve.
Yep.
But a lot of the times now I try and find things of what we can do to adapt to be able to make it all happen. So,
Yep. Throughout this this incident and probably the transition to where you are now, how are the kids taking that? I've got 6 kids. I see them as the most resilient little people in the world. I've picked them up and I've moved them to Queensland. I've moved them to Victoria, down to Dartmouth where we didn't know anybody, and it's only like living in an old folks' home, to back to Griffith again. Kids are resilient, but
You got it in one. They are just so resilient.
yeah.
No, they've been amazing. Our kids have had to be resilient from an early age. As I said, I went and got the truck licenses. So they're farm kids. I've had car seats strapped into tractors while driving, chase bins. I've put them in the trucks. We had an old ACCA that had no air conditioning or anything in 40-degree heat. We're going to the silos, and I've got a 6-month-old in a car seat next to me.
Yep.
We do it. It's just they've had to adapt and do things, and they don't see it as unusual to be put in those situations. But the situation they were put in with Derek's accident, it was off the scale.
Yeah.
It was quite different. We did fly the kids up and get the kids to come up to us early on in the days of the accident. So they were there. There was 7 weeks where Derek was unable to speak at the beginning of the accident. So a lot of it was done with, we had a chart with the alphabet on it, and I'd ask questions, and it was the worst game of charades. I don't like charades now.
No.
So we went through, but we were able to communicate via different things, and I could read his face well enough to know what he was thinking. So a lot of the time we were able to communicate that way, and the kids sort of were able to adapt and join us in that, and we included them in most of the things. Even still now, we only let them in so far. Some of the stuff with Derek's accident, we draw the line. So we have carers come in now, and myself, and we say, no, that's our job. That's where the line goes, and we don't even parents and things. We don't let them into that part of the accident because they're still kids. They still need to be a child. Our youngest was 5 at the time. She's now 11. So she just had her 5th birthday, and then 4 weeks later we had the accident. So they were up and back. We had some great friends and people from across the area and businesses around that would come up and visit us, and they'd bring the kids up for that weekend to see us. So that 5.5 months, we'd see the kids every couple of weeks. So it was hard. Sorry.
I think that's probably an understatement. Yeah. It's one of those things that'd be very hard not to get emotional when you look at how the kids get affected. Yeah, I can only imagine. So
so no, that's the sore point for me, is ensuring that the kids still have a childhood.
Yep.
And we said from day dot that the accident wasn't to impede what they ever want to do or what they can do.
I think what they'll be taken away from it is is how awesome parents they've got, and how you can overcome anything if you work together. I think he's doing an amazing job, really, from what I've heard.
Thank you. But yeah, no, we do include them. We do get a lot of things. So even the now 11-year-old, if I'm down the paddock and I need a lift to get somewhere, if I call up the house and she's the one that's free, she'll be able to jump in a car and drive down and get us and move us around and do different things. The girls have been learning over the last couple of years to do the chaser bin, much to the 15-year-old's disgust, because he likes that job. But everyone, we work as a team. It's not just one particular thing, but they take on a lot of responsibility and they do a lot more than meets the eye. They can all care for Derek. They can all do different things. Any of the emergency type stuff they know how to do and what to do. After Derek's accident, about 12 months after Derek's accident, he had a blood clot that blocked off his lungs, resulting, so it's pulmonary embolism. They ended up watching me do CPR for Derek, and they were the ones in charge of ensuring the ambulance was on its way and calling for other people to come in and give assistance. And it's just, they did it. And it was...
That's amazing.
Easter Eve, and it was just one of the things that they did. They've seen a lot more in their short lives than what most people have, but their resilience and their empathy is through the roof.
They're going to be amazing.
So, and don't get me wrong, they sometimes they go, I don't want
They're teenagers. They're kids.
They're teenagers. They're everything else. But we couldn't do what we do without the support of our families and without the kids. And I quite often look at it, and it was an early on revelation to me that if Derek was okay and the kids were okay, and that meant that I was okay. Because
you still got each other.
So, and that was one of the very early onsets. And as a result, we look at it, and if one of the kids wants to go on a holiday somewhere, I look at ways of making it happen. So last year we went to the Gold Coast because our youngest is a gymnast. So we went up to a gymnastics carnival up there, and we were able to go up there and just had a bit of fun up on the Gold Coast for a week.
Make the most of it.
Made the most of it. Don't want to drive the 14 hours again.
I've just driven back from Coffs Harbour on the weekend. My son plays rugby union, so
but
stuck in the car with the kids.
But we've looked at different ways of doing it. We've been to caravan parks and stayed in cabins. We've stayed in hotels. The kids are adept. We worked out that with the hoist and things that we need, we can't fit under all beds. So I found a product a little razor that can lift the mattress up to the bed up to the height we want. So it's sort of a well-oiled machine, but the kids were used to that sort of thing because we did so many trips through the deserts and things that everyone has their role to play. And if one person lets us down, then it's a fall-on effect. So the kids have grown up with that since birth. So they sort of
That's awesome.
have moved into that.
No, that is really good. Just looking forward to the future for you guys. Any plans on expanding the farming operation?
Possible.
You want to clarify that?
Land prices, the way they've gone, it is impossible. And because we're close to Wagga, it's always been pretty sought after area anyway.
It is. It's a gorgeous area though. That's
and just the prices people pay for land, and once the neighbour's bigger than you, you got no chance of competing with him.
So you're happy just to sit on your...
Well, I haven't got much choice, have I? But we've got a nice bit of land and enough, basically, for a couple of families. So we've got what we got. We can afford a few toys in good years. And
if opportunities arise or something like that, or something came up, it'd be something that we would look at. But for the moment, I can't see it happening. It is one of those things that I can't see anything happening. We're
too close to Wagga too. Hobby farmers are always going to pay more per acre than we ever will.
They will,
And we're so close to Wagga that we can't compete with hobby farmers. Pretty sad.
And then some really good country just goes to...
So, and that's it. So, but we like where it is. It's close and handy. We've made the adaptations to what we can, but looking forward, I'm always looking at ways to adapt and ways to see how we can incorporate and work Derek into the system better. We're in the process of scripting a new wheelchair for Derek. So the wheelchair that we've managed to find, it's an Australian company down in Victoria, and we're able to use one of their stock chairs, but they're putting a sort of a cross tread, like a all-terrain tyre on it, which we trialled, and he's able to drive across the paddocks with stubble and everything else, no issues with the chair. So looking forward to him being able to get across more of the paddock. We have a big track chair for him, but he has to be hoisted onto it, and it's quite a challenging task to get all of those things, which we're still playing with the deductions for that. But going through and going forward, it's more about getting Derek more out into the paddocks a bit more and seeing a bit more of the actual stuff that's going on, and looking at ways we can continue to adapt and change.
New technology's coming out every day. It's not going to be long before you're sitting there and you're just controlling the tractor off from your phone, and it's an autonomous tractor.
Yeah, so we're looking at that, and as I said, our 15, 16-year-old, he's pretty keen to get back to the farm, but he's looking at courses and things that he can do to see where he can come into the situation. And as I said to him, it's his life, his choice, and what direction he wants to take, he needs to do that. Likewise, our girls, the two girls have got what they want to do and what they want to see. And
this area is so many opportunities for kids.
Yeah.
It is awesome. So gymnastics, doesn't matter what it is, there's so many opportunities. I sort of miss Wagga for that from our kids, because, they had so many opportunities. It's good to hear that the kids are potentially looking to come back to, because that's something that, talking to a lot of farmers across the country, that's one of their biggest worries is, well, all this hard work we're putting in to set it up, what happens if the kids don't come back? I've got no doubt your kids are probably well and truly involved in this farm, because they've invested so much of their time anyway already. I think that's going to be something that they'll want to be a part of.
Yeah, and look, it's their choice.
Yep.
I'm not going to pressure them one way or the other. It's their choice, their life. They can lead it how they like to.
Yep.
Derek and I have made our choices in our life, and we'll back them 100% into what they want to do.
Yep. You made an interesting comment before, Skye, about social media.
Yeah.
And Twitter in general. That's where we sort of started talking, because we know a few common influencers that were on Twitter that are no longer, and things like that, or X as we call it nowadays, or they call it. I still call it Twitter. I was fairly active on it back in my younger days, a few years ago, back when I was starting out with Seraphins, and I met a lot of people through it. I found it a really great tool for sharing experiences, but then it changed. But your comment, there was a lot of females that, well, the wives of the husbands that were on there.
I'm finding that there's a lot of females still out there, and I think that's a big push in female ag. Like, don't get me wrong, I love talking to the blokes. I love getting the information from them and learning so much from each of them. But as a female, you want that female understanding and different things. And my situation was pretty much the standard female role of, I was doing the bookwork, I made sure there was food out there, I was doing all those different things. But if I needed to, I could be out in the paddock doing those things. And that's where a lot of females' roles are within the ag industry, particularly on farm. Hate to say it, sorry. But there's a lot more behind the scenes of what the women can do, and they do.
Absolutely.
And it's it's starting to come a bit more prevalent in recognising that contribution to ag.
Yep.
And the females are now stepping out and taking on those not so gender specific roles that were always there.
Yep.
And in the Twitter space, you do feel that there's a lot of women still doing those different roles and doing those things, and they're putting themselves out there still.
Yep.
And I think it's amazing to get that message out there that there are women in ag, and there are lots of spaces and opportunities for women to put that across. And I grew up with my mother teaching me that just because you're a girl doesn't mean you can't do it. You can just do it differently.
That's right.
So that's one frustration Derek has with me, because he would have done it using brute strength and doing different things, doing it his way.
Yep.
And I do things approached differently and do it my way, but the outcome's the same. And that's what I keep trying to explain
Sometimes.
to him. So, and there are some jobs that, you can't do on your own,
Yep.
but likewise different things. But
males have that same trouble.
And that's exactly right. So I like to see those stories and hear of those empowerment bits and pieces.
Yep.
I have tended to drop away from the X platform due to the changes and things, because I wasn't getting what I used to out of
It has changed.
out of the actual platform, and I tend to look more on the Insta side or direct messaging people, and Snapchat has become more of the norm of sending, some of the stuff ups that you do. You're like, oh my God, look at this. And, it's gone out there, but it's gone. And, they'll see it for a little bit or different things. So you're not going to cop that backlash that you could by having it posted for a permanent time frame. And look, the honesty is most of the stuff that goes up on those platforms, we do it. No, you do it as a calculated risk, and you're doing it there. So it's not necessarily true. So, and I find that's where it lacks. Because if you are being truthful and things, you are setting yourself up for the attack, which is the sad thing.
It is. It's very, very, very sad. You made a good point though with the podcast format, and it's something that I really never sort of took into account, because I've always been concerned what happens if we put a podcast out and somebody disagrees with it and then there's a bit of a backlash. At the end of the day, it's up to the person to listen to that podcast and actually really participate in that, rather than just scrolling through and seeing a post or a comment and then, getting sucked into that conversation.
Yeah, it's their choice to interact or to go further and look at it. So
we decided as a business, we wanted to change what we did and this is a marketing exercise in some way, but it's also a way that we can promote agriculture, we can promote ourselves, but we can promote the industry as a whole. And that's why we're talking to, like, you've got no products of ours, you've got no relation. I think the only relationship that we probably would have had was we sponsored the motorbike event that we had the accident. So that's one of the reasons why I was really keen on hearing your story, because I knew that from talking to James, our mutual friend, that you had an amazing story as well as Derek, and that's where I wanted to be able to share that, because so many women in the industry that I meet do have an amazing story. They are some amazing people. They do the jobs at home. They raise the family, but then they're on the tractor and things like that. And I wish there was more voice for women. To be able to get it out there. So hopefully with a little bit of a voice and a couple of viewers we might have on our YouTube channel.
That's it. And it's becoming more and more accepted. Like if you think of a farmer, you think of the bloke with the big hat and everything else. And it's starting to become more of a norm now to actually steer away from that a little bit. But and I hope one day that, it's the norm to go, it's a farmer. It's not designated sex.
And it also is fantastic to see, Derek, you're still a big part of the operation of the farm and keeping an eye on everything, using the technology that's available as well. That was something I was pretty keen on learning about, was to see what technology you had, what technology you had available that you could use, like your drone and your mobile phone, setting up your chair with the UHF, all of those things, and then seeing what you think could happen in the future, because there's some technologies out there that are coming that is phenomenal. Like I touched on before, the automated tractors. I've got some friends of mine that are really heavily involved in that industry, and some of the stuff that they're working on now, well, they've been working on it for 10, 15 years. Some of it is pretty cool. A lot of it's been transferred over to mining because that's where a lot of the big money is. But I could see that as probably being something that you guys are going to be able to adopt, and I think you're probably going to find a lot of farmers are going to start to adopt as well.
Yeah, and it's like little things like I got Derek for his birthday the other year. I bought him a little Gold Acres spray tank with a metre wide boom on it, and we built him a little tow bar for behind this wheelchair, and he's able to, we connected through and adapted the on-off switch from the actual cart. We took it away and made a little toggle switch, so we plug it into the chair here. So we just do a disconnection of this little clip, and then I clip it into the wiring loom of the actual spray cart behind him.
Nice.
And he can then turn it on and off as he drives around to spray. So all around the sheds and areas that he's able to go, I can get him to do that small spraying around this little
And with the new chair that's coming, or that you're working on, that could probably turn into a 24-metre boom and a...
I'll be sending him around to do fire breaks.
That's right. Do the fire breaks. Perfect. Yeah.
So I look at things, and you can look at something and you go, well, how can I adapt that? Or how can I change these things? And the UHF was an adaptation from the Bluetooth remote that you can put onto your steering wheel. That I had adapted to go through and run as the remote to then be pushed onto that. So instead of pushing the button in, it gets plugged into the same system, and you then the little toggle switch becomes the push button to be able to do that. So it's all about thinking about how you can make those adaptations and changes to do those things. So a lot of the time I've always had to do that, to think about how can I actually achieve that outcome to make that work, because I haven't been physically strong enough, or I haven't been able to do something that way. So I always look at things differently and go, well, how can I make that work? And I've taken that on to how can I make that work for Derek? And how can I make it work so he's better included and doing different things. So we're in the process of getting a new van and adapting that so he can be in the front passenger seat and be up the front and seeing a lot more and interacting more with me than being stuck between the two chatterboxes in the back seat.
Yeah, right. Especially on all the way to the Gold Coast. No, thanks. Acting as the referee between the kids. Yeah. No, fantastic. Well, I think we'll probably call it a time there. Thank you so much for letting us into your home and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic just having this bit of a chat and getting to know you guys a bit better. Hopefully everybody out there's enjoyed it as well. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we finish up?
If anyone's wondering what this actually is behind, this screen.
It is a TV.
It's a TV. However, this screen, it's a picture of the area, and the different colours are representative of the different crops and things. But that just shows Derek and the carers, if I'm talking about a particular paddock, he can just look at that as a reference and know exactly where we are and what crop is in there, instead of he goes, well, what are you doing out there? What are you trying to spray, or what are you doing this? And he'll know what crop it is, so he's not having to ask those extra questions and things. So I try and do a lot of things to help him answer questions before he has to ask them. So that's what these different things are. So that's sort of
again, it's just another use of technology that
so
some people probably don't even look at or think of. That you could be utilised in different ways to suit your situation. Overcome. Adapt and overcome. That was one of the things that John Harper that I spoke about. I took a lot away from his podcast episode that we did. He talks about being resilient and adapting, and the people that really succeed in life have been able to do that. And I think you guys are shining examples of it.
Thank you. But so I think adapt and be resilient, but I also think you need to be able to say when you need that helping hand and accept it. A lot of us are takers or givers. It's not very often you combine the two, and it's a lesson that we've had to accept and do. But I think looking back on our experiences, it's the only way, and I think going forward, that's one thing that I think a lot of us can take home from it.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Thank you very much.
No, thanks.
Really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you.
No worries. Righty, everybody. We'll call that a day. Thanks for the chat, guys. As always, like and subscribe. That way then you don't miss any of the episodes. We're hoping to be able to bring more content like this, stuff that's got real meaning to it. I've really enjoyed today. I've learned a hell of a lot about you guys, and naturally I'll be going home, sitting in the car and thinking about my family and all of the things, and I'm sure that everybody out there that are listening or watching on YouTube will probably be doing the same. So thanks everybody, and we'll catch you next time.